Welcome, everyone. This is going to be an interesting class, so strap in for this one. It's going to be about nothing. We will start with a bow and the recitation of the four great vows. Please join palms, bow. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. The topic today has been kind of metamorphizing itself for a while in my head as I study various sutras and treatises and want to present to you something that connects to what I've been teaching about, but also to push it. I've been trying to push the envelope a little bit in regards to how one reads the sutras and obtains the information from the sutras. I've said many times there's different levels where one reaches the information. The sutras, one is a sound hearer level where we just hear the words and we say, this is interesting, this is Buddha Dharma. And then there is a metaphysical level where one begins to think, well, let me begin to posit about this. Let me think about this. Let me contemplate this and see it. And then the third is beyond words and phrases and goes to letting go completely. You could say that when I was a very, very young child, we would go to a public pool and I would be looking at the deep end and I would just squat down, look at it. And then I jumped in, but I would be holding on to the coping. But I could feel the water. I could feel that. I also knew that there was no support or foundation underneath me. But I had taken swim classes, I had faith, and I wanted to be with my brothers and sisters in the deep end. So I let go and was able to swim in the deep end without fear. And this is somehow how we practice. When you first come to Buddha Dharma, you are just in the shallow area or just looking into the deep area, but not brave enough to go in. And some people say it's okay, take your time, don't worry. And then there's people like me that say, by the way, I'm not pushing you, but did you realize your head's aflame? What? Well, that's a new one, right? And so some people will run back to the shallow end and say, he's saying my head's on fire. Oh, don't worry, don't pay attention to him. You're fine here. And others will say, well, what can I do about it? And then they have faith in it and they can jump into the deep end. And it is bringing them through that middle part of the metaphysical understanding of it, of emptiness, that gets them ready to do that. What I've been trying to do is give you a taste of the transition between the metaphysical and the esoteric. And again, when I use the word esoteric, it's not the doctrinal sense of the esoteric school, but esoteric meaning that which is ineffable. Ineffable meaning it cannot be described in a meaningful way with words. It's beyond description. And you go, well, that helps. Well, that's the way it is. And right before the class, I was running into something that kind of created a little bit of a glue for this lecture, and in terms of where we're going with it. And I want to get to that, and that's from this book. I don't know if you can see it or not. You probably can't read it there, but It's the Buddhist teaching of totality, the philosophy of Huayan Buddhism, and this is they put most of their focus of their practice on the Avatamsaka Sutra or Flower Adornment Sutra or Huayan Jing, for those who speak Chinese and understand it from that point of view. And the Huayan Jing, it speaks to the totality of everything. And it starts off little and little and little, and then it takes you out so incredibly into the vast. And you have to follow along. You have to have faith to do that. If you just open it up and read it without any kind of a foundation, then it seems like it's like a cartoon, like something that you see, these superpowers and people able to go different places and different things. But it's mind. And it's telling you how vast and infinite mind is. Probably the only thing that you can really have people relate to, although they can't really relate to it, is in a realization is the infinite nature of mind. And so you're thinking, well, thanks, Gilbert. If I knew what infinite was, then that would help. But it is that contemplation of the infinite. And all the sutras, all the masters are always telling you about this. They're always telling you about letting go and seeing it in this way. In this particular book, the master Garma C.C. Sheng, he has some diagrams in there very interesting because they show the twofold part of the Four Noble Truths. And in the first noble truths, Four Noble Truths, you see there's samsara and the beginning and ending of samsara, and then from here, the beginning of nirvana, and then so forth. But in the Flower Adornment Sutra, there's no beginning, there's no end. When we try to grasp for the nirvana, even if we do that, it's still the first meaning of the Four Noble Truths. It is why the Heart Sutra came in, because it presented in a different way. So I want to start there to kind of give you a little bit of information about this. And it says in the very beginning of this book, the preface says the Huayan Sutra has one central concern: to reveal the Buddha realm infinity. To reveal the Buddha realm infinity. This is powerful, very powerful. When we say it's revealing it, it's using analogies, it's using pictures, it's using things, but we can't even begin to grasp at them because the enormity of the numbers that they're spouting is too much for us. And it says its messages are therefore directed to those who appreciate the awe-inspiring infinity of Buddhahood revealed in the first chapter. And so when it catches your attention and tells you and proceeds to tell you how to do it, and at the very end, it goes through 53 teachers that Sudana used to be able to achieve realization. And so it's very incredible in terms of the sutra. And I wanted to, before I get to the part, see if I can find it. let me just paraphrase part of this in terms of what was being said, and in describing the infinite nature of Buddhahood, is that imagine the entire cosmos, everything that the far-reaching telescopes can see and postulate about were all condensed in. Sounds like what happened about 8 billion years ago. All condensed in and ground up into a fine powder. All of that just motes of dust. And all those motes of dust were cosmoses themselves. Each one of them is a cosmos. And one took a handful of those cosmos and they walked west, and every once in a while they would just drop one mote of dust and continue and continue and continue and continue in all directions, and all of those would sprout to be their own cosmos and beyond. We get to a point where our ability to hold a number like that, hold an image like that, is impossible through samsaric reasoning, consciousness, or imagination. But it is what is revealed. It matters not one mote of dust representing all the cosmoses. It is in one moment incredibly large, and in the other moment infinitesimally minute. This can only be done in mind. When we read the sutras, we have to read it with this approach, to suspend the idea of the measurements from this world. Forget about the cosmos, just from this world, and trying to measure things. We have a difficult time to measure it. A foolish person can go outside on a full moon with a tape measure and measure the moon and say, well, the moon is 1 inch, in diameter. And that's how we measure things. It's very foolish, but we do that. Or how do you measure the time in a dream, or the distance one traveled in the dream? You certainly can't cash the winning lotto ticket that you won. So it's interesting. What I'm doing is giving you something to take a look at this to see. And then I ran into something very interesting, because this Garma Chang was talking about the Heart Sutra. And again, it's kind of my favorite part. If you've been around me most of the time, you'll see that I focus on the very first verse. But so it says, when the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara was coursing in the deep Prajnaparamita, he says, see here, I would say, he perceived that all 5 skandha are empty, and he overcame all sufferings and ills, or thereby transcending all sufferings. But when we look at this, then he writes this, which is very, very helpful to us. He says, the most significant word in this paragraph is see, which is when I tell about it, and I say the most significant word in this paragraph is to perceive, because it's a different perception. So then he says the verse again, and said thereby um, determining that all skandha are empty, all the five skandha, form, sensation, perception, volition, or consciousness. All of these are aggregates. Sometimes they use the terms of skandha or heaps. All of these things come together. It's like there's some magnet, those cheap magnets you used to get in a box of Cracker Jacks. I guess that really dates me because Cracker Jacks doesn't have anything even that cool in it anymore. But you'd get a magnet and you could run it in the sand and you'd get these iron filings that were stuck to it. And, when you're a kid, you think a magnet's the coolest thing around because it attracts stuff. But when you understand how that works and how and why it works, because it attracts things instead of leaving them where they're at, it's due to ignorance that these things come together and form something that is falsely believed to have its separate essence, an independent origination, which it's not. You can ask the tree here, are you a tree? Are you self-supporting? It says, no, I need air, I need water, I need soil, I need love. Even trees want love. So you see it's not standalone, and neither are you. And we've talked about this many times, and you've heard this many times. But the point I'm trying to get to is that there's a different form of seeing or perception here. So then he said, Prajnaparamita is not known through thoughts or rationations, but through direct seeing, and then he puts it in italics, direct seeing, which I would call direct perception. An experience of immediate presence, which is basically different from all forms of philosophical thought and reasoning. It is mind itself that sees things in this way. It doesn't have to be defined. It doesn't have to be described. You can't put it under a microscope and go, aha, there it is. There's mitosis happening there. That cell is dividing. No, it isn't in this way. It divides and doesn't divide at the same time, exists and doesn't exist because it is all mind. But it is governed by pratika samapada, which is not other than mind itself. So when we go to the Four Noble Truths, they don't hold when we see things in this way. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, because it's mind, the totality. This is very heady stuff, but it's good. It's good, and you can apply it in your daily life. In your daily life, you can understand. Don't harm that one because it's not different than you. It's not you, but it is you in a different way. So when we see this, okay, let me continue on. I suggest you guys listen very carefully. Okay, this because this is a progression that I'm trying to get through today. All right, but it's not time to theorize or relate it to something else. Try to feel it from your heart. And this, all of you are equally qualified to do this. So it says the fountainhead of Prajnaparamita teaching consists, therefore, of an intuitive experience intrinsically beyond words and symbols. To communicate this experience, Avalokiteshvara had no other choice but to use words and concepts. The dilemma is that whatever statement he made, he had to repudiate at once. It is said that the multitude of contradicting statements found in the literature of Prajnaparamita is a reflection of the limitations and inadequacies of the human way of thinking, rather than an indication of the absurdity of the Prajna truth. The reasons for this will be discussed later. But here, what we're looking at is we're seeing the things and saying, when we say you should practice in this way, it's a contradiction. Why? Because there's no you, there's no practice, there's no path. But nevertheless, we have to say those things in order to bring a person to the point of realization. But even saying bringing a person to a point of realization, there is no attainment, there is no person. So he's correct in this. We use the words, but you will see I'm constantly correcting myself and correcting you in terms of how you see this, not because I'm a nitpicker or a petty, elementary school teacher teaching you language skills, but because I want you to think about that, to not just haphazardly say it in this way, but understand even if you use the word you, that you're far from it. But nevertheless, you still have to use it. But it doesn't mean that in your faith that you can go beyond that. Buddhism asserts that the words are not the only means by which communication is made possible. Now we're getting to the important part here. They are, in fact, a very poor means insofar as communicating the prajna insight is concerned. In the Vilamakritti Sutra, there is a story of 9 million bodhisattvas from another universe who, while paying a visit to Vilamakritti, were asked how their Buddha preached the Dharma in their own land. So they were asked, how does the Buddha in your land teach the Dharma? This is really cool. There's a point to all of this. And he said, in our land, the Tathagata never preaches with words or letters. He just uses various scents like SCENTS, to make all persons, gods, and disciples listen. Each bodhisattva sits under a fragrant tree, and as he smells the fragrant, he will immediately attain the samadhi of the virtue store. And whosoever attains this samadhi will automatically attain all the merits of a bodhisattva. The visitors were, in fact, very much surprised that words and speech could be so important for Dharma preaching on this particular planet. Or I will stop with that part, because what my point was is to say to you that words and phrases have a limitation to them. What I am presenting to you is an invitation to cultivate in the esoteric, to go beyond the words and phrases, to feel. You have to find the way to open the heart to feel. It can be done. The other day I was talking to some of my students about something else, and I said, even in this world, the senses sometimes can be interchanged. Even in the practice of Qigong, for instance, one can, with their nose, just looking at a person, can smell the organs and smell what they are. If they smell a bad odor from the liver, they know that this person has a lot of anger. They know that this person may be an alcoholic or is habitually angry, and that will lead to other things. Other people, you can see there's something fetid in their stomach from worrying, or a fear in their face from fear, or a dankness in the lungs. That's not anything that we feel regularly through our senses, but by enhancing the senses, by amplifying the senses, we're able to perceive these types of things. I'll stop there because then I'll kind of drive your curiosity to more about that than my purpose of telling you that. But those skills go way beyond those initial doors that open up. But in any case, when one begins to see things in a different viewpoint, then we understand how to practice properly. When we listen to the sutras, we truly listen. We listen with every pore of our body. Sometimes it's said that the Buddha, in his pores, has billions of Buddha worlds. How is that? In a single pore. So be careful when you're picking at your blackheads. You might be destroying an entire world. Sorry. But in any case, it is in this way where we see things. It's different. But we have to suspend the judgment. I'm not telling you to lose your intelligence or reasoning. I'm telling you to use your intelligence and your reasoning to perceive that there may be more to this than what you can perceive through the limited senses that you have and limited intelligence and reasoning from a sentient being, and aren't able to fathom the potentiality. If you look only 200 years ago, somebody flying in the sky would be laughable, and yet, no, we are now into space. So broaden your perspective when you perceive the things, and when you read, open yourself to it. Don't just go, oh yeah, they're talking about flowers falling from the sky, uncountable flowers. Picture it. Picture it. Enter it. Enter. Try to feel what is happening in that moment. See it in your mind's eye. See it. When they're talking about crushing the cosmos and turning it into fine motes of dust, and then doing it again, and then taking all of those motes of dust and just going through space and just dropping a little bit at a time. You should be able to feel that, to see it in the mind's eye. Obviously, you cannot see it with the limited range of your eyes. Our range of seeing is not all that good. Most people, they can't see anything beyond sentient beings of the animal realm and the human realm. Others can perceive all realms. It's not special. It's just that their awareness is beyond the awareness of a sentient being. So now let me see where I'm going. This is from the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. And this one in particular is the 8,000 line sutra. I wanted to first start at the beginning of this, and the name of the sutra is the full name of the sutra is the Ratna Paramita Ratnuguna Samsaya Gatha. And the Ratnaguna Samsaya Gatha means the absolute original problem solving. Very interesting. Problem solving, not past, not gone, not perceivable verses. That's a pretty cool name for a sutra. If you read that and hear those names, to me, I would go, put me down. I want to read that. I want to look at this. This is amazing. You know, they're talking about this high level of wisdom, which is absolute, original. It solves the problems, and it's not from the past. It doesn't go anywhere, and it's not perceivable. And the sutra is talking about mind and how mind works. This is interesting. This is something that I think is worthwhile to read. And so let's look at part of it that I was, hopefully I can find the right spot. The problem with too many tabs is after a while they become counterproductive. But as I'm reading the tabs, I'm going, oh, that sounds good too. I should have talked about that. But this part says how a bodhisattva helps beings. Giving morality, also patience and vigor, the concentration, the wisdom should be turned over into enlightenment. So they're talking about the paramitas and saying that these should be turned over into enlightenment. In my way of saying it, is saying that the paramitas, as they're perfected, should be demonstrated. Enlightenment is not a noun, it's a verb. It is the act of doing, like Samantabhadra has established that it is the doing of things. That's where all this ties in, and we begin to see this. We have Manjusri with wisdom, and Avalokiteshvara with compassion. And Samantabhadra says, but you've got to put it into practice. You've got to do this. It isn't in this way. And so right off the bat, if you want to be a bodhisattva, this is how you do this, by you demonstrate it. It comes from the top, not from the bottom. But one should not grab at enlightenment having considered it as belonging to the skandhas. So when we consider enlightenment, we know there's no attainment. So we don't grab at it. We just simply demonstrate this intrinsic naturalness of the Buddha mind. That's all that's happening. We're not there to put a banner in and say Gilbert is now enlightened and everybody huddled up and I will tell you how to become enlightened, or touch you and you'll become enlightened. It isn't in this way. You already have it. That's what to me makes this easy, because it's like, even if I light your candle, some of you, it's just a little flickering thing and it goes out and then you go. Maybe you're going to go to some other practice or some other part. Others, when I do that right away, the flame goes up and you get it. You get it. You are looking around, who can I share this flame with? And the more that you share the flame, the brighter the flame that you have is, the more faith, the more vigor, the more patience you have. All of these things amplify and keep amplifying and amplifying. And it isn't from you as the center. The hub is mind itself. and everything goes out from the hub in all directions. Okay. It is thus that it should not be demonstrated to beginners, coursing thus the uh, the ocean qualities, moons, and the doctrine become the shelter of the world, its refuge, its place of rest. It means of salvation, intelligence, uh, the islands, leaders who desire its welfare, the light, the torch, teachers from the foremost dharmas, imperturbable, the armor difficult to wear, the greatly determined put it on. But they are not armed with the skandhas, elements or sense fields. They are free from the notion of the three vehicles and have not taken hold of it. They are irreversible, immovable, and steadfast in their character, but thus endowed with the Dharma, unimpeded, freed from hesitations, perplexity, and consternation, intent on what is beneficial, having heard the perfection of wisdom, they do not despair. They should be known as incapable of being led astray by others, as irreversible. Deep in this Dharma of the leaders, hard to see, nor is it obtained by anyone, nor can they reach it. For that reason, when he has obtained enlightenment, the benevolent and compassionate becomes unconcerned. What body of beings will cognize this? He doesn't say, how am I going to present this? This is what happened with Shakyamuni Buddha when he had his realization under the Bodhi tree. He's walking and going, seeing infinite and going, how can I even begin to express this? But nevertheless, even in that moment, he had his own doubts and reluctance, but understood he had to do it. We have a saying in Spanish saying, ni modo. When we say ni modo, means that you don't have a choice. This is just, you understand that this is the compassion that you were looking for, the wisdom that you were looking for, and coming to this compassion, this intrinsic nature of this. I can't even call him a divine being because he's beyond a divine being, a pure being. It is that brings a conviction to spread the Dharma to others, and in expedient means. So little by little, we present it, and we present it to beginners as well, in accordance with their ability to understand. But as I see it, the people in this particular group, you have an ability to do this. You are the ones that are what I call the victors. At this point, you are looking at this and are interested in this aspect of it. It will pay off. Trust me, it will pay off. You have to study hard, and you'll start linking and lacing all of the sutras and the treatises together. You'll see that they only speak of mind, only speak of heart of mind. And you will see this is a bodhisattva, just like Shakyamuni Buddha understood in that moment. He already knew he wanted to find something that he could spread. Once he found it, how was he going to do that? Because it was beyond, it's inconceivable. So how can you give what is inconceivable to other people? You can, but it takes time, and it takes their participation. Each of you, have the ability to have this innate understanding that your intrinsic nature is Buddha nature. This is the turning of the Dharma wheel, the third turning of the Dharma wheel into the Buddha nature. So when you have this, then when you read the sutras, read the treatises, then you come from a different viewpoint than what you ever came from before. You come from the viewpoint of mind is presenting to mind. Mind is showing mind. If the self is there, self goes, oh, well, wait a minute. Let's stop and think. How do we know if there's more cosmos? Well, how do we not know? No, this is just blabbering. It doesn't make any sense. That's just a imagination. Isn't this world an imagination? It's an illusion, a phantasm, a dream. What if the inconceivable is this ultimate truth? This is what you contemplate and look into, and it's not going to hurt you. You're not going to find yourself 10 years later in some mental institution because you blew your brain out. That's not going to happen. You're just going to look at it. What is Gilbert teaching? Wisdom, compassion, harmony. How is that harmful to you or to anyone else? How do you do that? What is the practice? Demonstrating the six paramitas constantly. Reflecting on this is how it works. So we go beyond those pages in the book to see the truth, the real truth, not a truth where there's a falsehood on the other side. It isn't in that way. As we see the line of Buddha Dharma nature, it's continuous. The one of samsara then stops, and then we have the nirvana. That's an illusory line. That's not really existent. It only exists in the Buddha nature, but who knows how long that measurement of time is when they're talking about not just eons, but kalpas and billions of kalpas and hundreds of thousands of billions of kalpas. And when you get there, there's still more. It's infinite. This infinite is really a key to going into it. When you sit in the infinite. When you meditate, you sit in the infinite. Little by little, it will become clear to you. Right now, it's not so clear. But little by little, as you begin to sit in the infinite, it will make more sense to you. So just be patient with that. You will see. I'm telling you how to study. This is different. Please trust me. If you can do this, you will become a great teacher here. There's no doubt of that. Let's see what else I have. I wanted to read it because this is what I got started on last week. I don't know if I read this last week or not, but I'll read it again. I don't think I did. This is from the book Dawn of the Bodhisattva Path by Gil Fronsdale. All these books are really old, but it doesn't matter. They have some really good stuff in them. Like it matters how old it is. We were reading stuff that's, 2,300 years old. As is well known, many Buddha sutras make frequent use of repetition. Most often, this is explained as a mnemonic aid from a time when the texts were transmitted orally. Occasionally, it has been pointed out that the repetition may also have a function as an aid of concentration for establishing a particular religious mood. We must also take seriously the ritual functions of repetition. Coons and Lancaster, those are scholars, take seriously the ritual functions of repetition. Excuse me, Coons and Lancaster have referred to several passages of the Dao Xing Jing. Here he's referring to Dao Xing Jing, but it isn't the Taoist book. It's actually the Heart Sutra, and as litanies with a dialogue between two characters forming the text and the recitation. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I don't want to bust your ears. I'm back. You can hear me, right? Yeah, okay. So when we see this repetition in the sutras, sometimes they'll say, the practice is this, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And to us, sometimes when we read that, even to me when I first started, it became so monotonous, like, oh, come on, please. But then I realized there was something really valuable that was being communicated there. And it was not going through the regular channels of of memory and of understanding by words and phrases. There was a almost like a little acupuncture penetrating through it, and each of these were like little tiny treatments, little pins that are going in, needles going in, each of them precisely there to help us to overcome the idea of the ego, overcome the idea of someone that is practicing and looking at it from this perception that was different. And that's the part that when you read these, then you understand. So I'll give you an example of a couple of them. One of them is one where somebody will say something and the other one will repeat it. So these are from very, very ancient texts, but you'll see what I mean. So the very first part is Sariputra said to the Buddha, Diva of divas, the perfection of wisdom is extremely deep. The Buddha said, it is extremely pure. Sariputra said, its purity is extremely bright. The Buddha said, it's extremely pure. Sariputra said, it is pure being without dirt. It is extremely pure. It is pure being uncorrupted. It is extremely pure. It is pure being non-existent. It is extremely pure. It is pure of both greed and non-greed. It is extremely pure. It is pure of both wisdom and non-wisdom. It is extremely pure. It is extremely pure in relation to both wisdom and non-wisdom. It is extremely pure. It is extremely pure in relation to the wisdom that is non-wisdom. It is extremely pure. You see, when you listen to it, there's another feeling that comes through. When you're reading it, you're just reading it, but you don't get the feeling for it. That the Buddha is there in the absolute. Sariputra is reflecting samsara, but nevertheless, the two are balanced. The two are necessary to be there. One is that it's extremely pure, but to understand what is extremely pure, one has to see what is not pure and what is duality. So it's very interesting. So when we read in this way, don't just read it in a monotonous way. There's something happening here on a much, much deeper level as one sees it. very important. I'm really trying to go like this and grasp you out of that bubble and pull you out so that you can feel this. Now, let's take a look at another part here. Um, again, from an ancient text, and it says, Devas, the Prajnaparamita is an extreme bright light. The Prajnaparamita removes darkness. The Prajnaparamita is without attachment. The Prajnaparamita is extremely holy. For those without eyes, the Prajnaparamita becomes eyes. For those who have gone astray, the Prajnaparamita indicates the path of the Tao. Sarvajna is Prajnaparamita. And Sarvajna, anybody know what Sarvajna means? Santa, you know that one?
Omniscience.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you can stay on the payroll. So you did good. Yeah, it's omniscience or like a total awareness, totality of consciousness. It's everything. So he's saying that it is Prajnaparamita. Prajnaparamita is the mother of the Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the unborn, the unextinguished is Prajnaparamita. All three turnings of the 12 spokes, Dharma wheel, are turned by Prajnaparamita. Again, because it is the mother, it is at the hub of everything. Prajnaparamita pacifies all suffering. Prajnaparamita protects one from samsara, life and death. Devas of devas, Prajnaparamita is the self-existing nature of all dharmas, the self-existing nature of all dharmas, of all phenomena. Again, it's at the hub. And when we see this, this is very important. Yesterday, I was talking to one of my students, or I was writing to the student, and who had some misfortunes in her life. And I said that birth and death is not limited to the life and being. It can be the birth and death of a relationship. It can be the birth and death of happiness. And we don't understand that because we don't understand this. We don't understand the importance of the cessation of birth and death, that to see the things as they are and understand that these appearances, they're actually the pure ground of mind, but because of causes and conditions, they appear. But they are not the fundamental intrinsic mind. They're just simply blips that happen. We don't know how long these blips last. I mean, in comparison to Buddha Dharma, these blips could have been like the Buddha body going, oh, I got an itch, and he scratches it and it's over. But for all of those Buddha worlds that were localized there, they could have been suffering until the Buddha scratched it. And how long did that time come? Was it the time of the of the Buddha worlds in the poor, and how long that transpired, or the moment that the Buddha just simply scratched like that? How long would that have taken? And how would that measurement be given? You see, it's very, very incredible. You guys are studying something awesome, really awesome. It's not easy to get people to listen to this. You know, people will go, What did Gilbert say to you? He's way out there now. Don't be that way. Trust your heart. trust the sutras and see if it isn't just that way, how the sutras see things. And and you'll see that all of this is all going to fit together. What I'm trying to do is pick these pieces from here and from here and from here and putting them together, but then to show you how you collectively look at this and put it together. Put all of these pieces that are there, these pieces of the Dharma, and then put them all together so that they make sense to you. It will happen one day. All of the pieces will come together for you. And right now, you still have them, but they're still separate. We have emptiness, impermanence. We have different things that are there, suffering, you name it. And but one day they're all going to fit together perfectly in a way that is beyond any conception. Okay, I think that's it. I think I burned myself out for the day. So I'll take your questions. Amitofo. I'm also interested in hearing if this is too much for you or you can hang in there with it. Yes, Sam.
Amitofo, Gilbert. Thank you for your lecture today. Not too much at all. In fact, I think these are not to add a value system, but these are the best of the best of the lectures. Is when you really, like you say, take throw us into the deep end of the pool, if you will. So thank you. And I believe this is a lecture that will have to be listened to a couple times to really contemplate and absorb what was said. But in reference to talking about just the importance of studying the sutras, I was wondering if I could ask you a question about the Surangama Sutra, if that would be okay. Um, there's the portion in it where Ananda, it's his last time trying to assert what is his mind or where his mind is. And it's the part where Ananda tries to assert that, uh, therefore, is my non attachment my mind. And then the
My
Buddha
what?
goes, is my non attachment
Okay.
my mind. And then the Buddha goes on to refute him and basically say, like, if it did not exist, or if this non attachment did not exist, it would be the same as hairs on a tortoise or horns on a rabbit. And then he says, if it doesn't exist, how then can it said to be unattached? Because whatever is non-existent is without attributes. And I just wanted to ask you for clarification. Is the problem here that Ananda, he keeps saying my non-attachment, my mind, and it seems like he's trying to use all these conceptual means, like this conceptual idea of attachment versus non-attachment, and he keeps trying to use concepts to describe the mind. Is this where he is continually failing, really?
No, you have to keep reading further. The the failure is that he's perceiving everything from the perception of the five aggregates
Mm-hmm.
and trying to define things and see things from that. So he says my non-attachment,
Mm-hmm.
but there is no my to it. That's why the Buddha yelled at him and said, Ananda, that's not your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave him a pretty good yell because it scared the heck out of him
Yeah.
and shook him. And no, sometimes you do. It's very rare that you will do something along those lines, but it was apropos in that moment that scared him and then caused him to come before the Buddha, kneel down, bare a shoulder, and then prostrate to him and say, we're all confused, and um, and that's natural, and that's natural. The Buddha is very patient with this in his teaching because his teaching is taking the people level by level by level in terms of seeing and how can one define mind in this way? It is what we're talking about today, this infinite. How can you define it? The words fail. So it is in this way that that he could not get there, could not perceive it. If you remember um, how the Shurangama Sutra started,
Mm-hmm.
was that that Ananda, because of his inabilities and the supernatural powers of a Matangi woman, he found himself on an impure mat.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to send, I think it was Mahakasyapa, to to break the spell and go pick him up, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then he shows up at the Jetagro, and he's all disheveled. I mean, obviously, his robe might be a little bit wrinkled or whatever, but it is his weakness that causes him to be before the Buddha and say, "What was it? What am I missing? I don't understand that. I don't understand how I could be so easily led in that way." And so he is presenting this for us. He represents us. Whether somebody ends up on an unclean mat or an unclean bar or using drugs or using foul language or whatever it is that are vexations, an unclean donut, they all are on there. And it'd have to be a pretty unclean donut to pass me by. I adhere to the 5-second rule if it's dropped on the ground. I added a couple extra ones for donuts. Um, Men have a 3-second rule that if you ever drop something on the floor in the kitchen, that if you pick it up within 3 seconds, it's not dirty. So I don't know if anybody's ever done that. Probably none of you, right? But in any case, this is what the Shurangama is all about. It's all about what I've been talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
It is there. You just have to have the patience, keep reading, go beyond the first volume, and you'll see. And as you begin to practice it, and understand it, then you know what the Buddha is presenting all the preconceived notions of what mind is, and not letting there be any kind of a misunderstanding that it's in between two objects, inside the head, outside the head, or whatever, all these absurd points. Um, because at this point, the Buddha's using a technique that was used way back when, which is the same one that Nagarjuna used, which was called reductio ad absurdum, means that you take it to the most illogical extreme. And if it's in the head, your head would explode because it's too much. Or if it's halfway between something, exactly where is that halfway point, and how can it be termed? All of those things, they're showing that one cannot explain what mind is, but one has to contemplate that. We contemplate. That's what the sutras are talking about, is looking into this. That's why I say they're linked together.
Mm-hmm.
So the Shurangama Sutra is a study aid as to how to penetrate and go deeper in the practice. The Tathagata Garbha Sutras help us because they show us the that it is not simply nihilistic or empty of nothing. There is a, a true nature, a Buddha nature there. We cannot define it. We cannot pull it out, nor can we ever lose it. It's just there. And so this is what the Buddha is presenting to uh, it was Ananda, because he didn't understand that he was only looking at it from the samsaric ground. And it cannot be that the samsara cannot define or identify what mind is. So that's what that's all about. Okay?
Thank you, Gilbert.
You helped me link this together, which is what I wanted to do. Now we're going to go to Melanie, who's somewhere in the universe there.
I think the background goes really well with what you're speaking about today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch where I'm at. I think I just got stuck on the top to bottom thing.
Hold on one second. Unfortunately. You probably can hear what I'm saying, even with the microphone muted. Ah, my dogs are getting so old, and one of them gets senile, and she doesn't want the other one close, and then she wants them close, and then she forgot she wanted them close, so then she forgets and says, "I don't want you close to me." So sounds like human life, right? Okay, I'm sorry for that. Hopefully it it won't reach too strong in terms of that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
That's okay. I guess I was trying to crack the veil of sitting in the non-abiding of all things, but I think I managed to find the gap of where I was, which is I was sitting trying to subconsciously find something, um, which cannot be found in my limited perception of what I can think I can see, even conceive of. Um, and instead, what I'm perceiving and feeling right now is that what is expressed as understanding the Dharma from top to bottom is applying the wisdom, um, without the attachment of the self and the ego, or thinking that one is even doing it in that moment. If that, I don't know. I'm struggling to say it in a very cohesive way. Um, yeah, I think that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, one Rinpoche said that as you begin to practice, it becomes very curious because it appears that the mind begins to split into two. That being the perceiver and what is perceived. Although it isn't quite a duality, what it is that the the mind is switching very, very quickly. So in one moment it perceives the arising of the ego, and it perceives the arising of sentient thought. And then the next moment it flips back and it says, "Is that mind?" And then it flips back and it's saying, illusion flips again and say, "Aha." And it's going, "Wait, what is this?" It's okay. You're in the right place. You're at this point trying to decide whether you're going to jump all the way in. Just jump. You'll get there. So it's natural that you will feel that way. Now you're eclipsed. Oh, there you are. Okay. And see, you almost left. You can do it.
I jumped.
So you can do it. You're given a special effect showing what the stage of your practice is. But any side anyway, you might, who knows, you might have went to the dark side of the moon. So sounds like a tune, right? But in any case, you're where you should be. Keep doing that. Okay, keep doing that. It doesn't matter if you can become confused for a while, but it's okay to be confused, because what you're doing is you're being confused as to the existence of a life and being. It's very hard to give that up. Okay, so good. You're right where you should be. Keep practicing that. All right, good. Shloka,
Hi, Gilbert.
hello.
Mitoko. Um, I sort of just wanted to report something back to you. Um, and so last week Tom asked the question of like, how do we know what to study or how do we know what to read at any given point in time? And you said, follow your heart. And that was very helpful. So thanks, Tom, for asking that question. And so I ended up doing this online retreat this weekend on the 4 Brahma Viharas, or the 4 boundless qualities of the heart. And it was the first time that I so actively tapped into this expansive, heart-centered awareness that we have. And it was incredible. And it made me realize that there are so many layers of habitual patterns to dissolve, but that it's possible. And with time and with practice, we can actually have this unconditional love and compassion for everyone, because that is our true nature. And it was just really nice to remember that.
You're on a state of joy, and that's good. It is something that you begin to understand the Dharma more. As you go further, you'll find a maturation there, and then you will find that there is no longer a you, but simply this perception or this omniscientness. What was it called, Santa? Sarvada?
Sarvajna.
That's what I said, right? But it is this state of awareness that is not attached to a particular being. It is simply the true nature awareness that goes beyond that. But for you to get that and to feel what you're feeling is a natural progression. So keep working on that. Okay. You really have to try to absorb what I've talked about today. What I'm doing is I'm taking you guys really far into a deep end. But I'm still a lifeguard. Okay. So if the wheels start coming off, buzz me and I will talk to you as people know that I do that. I don't debate how many angels balance on a point of a pin, but if people have practice problems or whatever, I will help them. And so yeah, you're right where you should be in terms of this. And naturally, now all we have to do is just make sure that is the mind's perception that sees this and not any sentimentality to it. Okay. It's still okay to cry, whether weeping or laughing. It's okay. You don't turn into an automaton or some kind of a robot. You are just as you are. The only difference is that Shloka 101.2. You're redesigned without the attachments. Okay, little by little, attachments are difficult to get rid of. I have plenty of them that I'm still working on, but I can say that that I'm a much better person and more harmonizing person now than I was when I was 20, for sure. Okay, so you have a few years to work on this. So when you get to my age, you'll be telling people stories about this old man that you met way back when. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Wasn't too many questions today. So is this the direction you want me to go? Or you want me to back it off a notch?
Keep it going.
Well, I figure you would say that.
Me too. Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm really trying to take you to a point where obviously this is not Chan 101, but it's there. And see you later, Letty. And I want you to practice hard. That's the way it'll make a difference. If you practice and work on this, it will make a difference. It will, just like Shloka showed, it'll make a difference in your, even in a small retreat or a short retreat, but in a long retreat, you can make a serious penetration in terms of doing that. And I have plenty of you that can attest to that they've done that in a retreat. And so I'm very, very happy to see you. You're welcome, Meili. Good to see you. And anyway, anything else? Any other questions? I guess only my dog wants to chirp on in. So, okay, practice hard.
Does he have a Buddha nature, Gilbert?
I'm sorry?
Does he have a Buddha nature, though, Gilbert?
I'm going to go up there and teach my dog maybe the sound of one hand clapping. So I can't bring myself to do that, She's too old. All right. And anybody else? Going.
This is Arvind. Thank you, Master, for today's talk. And Michael, thank you for reminding that I had a question. It was less of a question and more of an just a gratitude. Earlier today, I had asked a question to Master Gilbert separately on a message about something, and today's talk was exactly what I needed to hear. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Good. Yeah, you hang in there. You're moving away from being a scholar and practicing from your heart, and that's good. And it's telling. It is something that's there. You have to put it into your everyday practice all the time, and you'll reflect the Buddha Dharma in everything that you do. Okay, and do it that way. Everybody comes in from different points of views and different things, and it's just my skill set that I need to reach everyone. Today, I indulged in giving you something pretty far from what most people can reach for, and you can't reach for it. You just have to rest in mind, and it will come on its own. And that's kind of the tricky part. But if you can do that, it will pay off. I'm working with you because I'm seeing you as the future Dharma teachers, and you listen and you listen and you listen. You get how many lectures per year with this, and if you do your own self-study, in 10 years, as is evident by some of the people who've been with me 10, 20 years, 15 years, you see the progress in them. And sometimes it's just overall, and sometimes there's like a quantum jump all of a sudden. And so when you see things like that, then you really are you can see that you're going to just get better with this. You're going to deliver people. You're going to help people. We help people not just simply, saying, oh, everything's impermanent, just get over what's happening. But you also find the way to reach people and reach when people have lost something or lost a loved one, they're hurting. It's natural to hurt. It would be unnatural not to hurt. So you also have to extend out a loving kindness, a metta, that's there in addition to karuna. And so that's important, that we have to see things in this way. And no, we can't control this world. And that's our dissatisfaction sometimes, and leads us to suffering. So no matter what, whether it's me or somebody else, life changes in a moment. So no, please, help each other, be kind to each other. As you're kind to other people, it is being kind to your own body as well. Okay. So I'm very happy because I see this in this group. This group is a very wonderful group and beginning to become a very strong sangha, very, very strong sangha and worthwhile. And, I often tell other people that I will put up my students, in terms of their understanding and practice, that I really have a lot of faith in them because they practice sincerely. And that's very important for us. Okay, it seems like I'm losing my voice, so that'll be it for today. Thank you very much for all coming, and we'll see you the next time. And I'll figure out whether I'll stay with this or go with something else. But I'll be interested to see if people have any comments about that, and you can put them on the Mindwork forum. Okay, Amitabha, you all take care.
I mean,
Blessings to you
Gilbert.
all.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.